Welcome to the ZebraTalk series. We're talking about purpose today. So my next guest, would you like to tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure, I'm Owen Pringle. I am a founding partner of ARC.
Yeah.
And ARC is an organization that sits squarely between the areas of organization development and digital transformation. So what we help to do is work with organizations to develop behaviors, mindsets, work on systems, processes, procedures, that kind of thing. Really
difficult stuff.
Not easy stuff, but and quite slow in their ability to demonstrate change as well. But ultimately, what we hope to do is to demonstrate that an organization can be fit for purpose in the digital age.
Fantastic. And you told us today about living your purpose. We were talking about how do you integrate your purpose? How do you take decisions with purpose? I was struck by, you're someone who has lived the purpose so much that your own role, you removed your own role because you didn't think that was right for the organization. So tell us about that experience.
Sure. So that was really in relation to my role at Amnesty International. So I was the global director of digital there. And when I arrived, the focus of digital was how can we amplify the voice of the organization? So how can we campaign? How can we use digital to drive revenues for the organization? So how can we fundraise? And ultimately what I wanted to do was to place digital squarely in the frame of how can the function of digital and the role of digital help to deliver on the organization's core objectives. How can they help to remove and reduce human rights infractions around the world?
Okay, fantastic. And that led to you distributing
ultimately what that meant was, the entire organization needed to take ownership of not just digital, but the idea of technology being something that could be an enabler for change. And the idea of having a central function for digital globally, which is a large team. It's about sort of 40 people, but ultimately it was a bottleneck. It didn't make sense for me to be the command and control unit for digital around the organization. So we did two things. Firstly, we started to build capacities around the organization. Secondly, we looked at ways that we could develop technologies, innovations that would be rolled out on a local level in different parts of the world. The corollary being that over time, it made sense to disband both my function, my role as a digital director, and the department itself, and instead to embed those practices, those disciplines, those skill sets into different parts of the organization.
I think that's a fantastic example of courage in using purpose in working life. You mentioned technology, and I know something that you took away from today was about technology companies. So tell us your takeaway today and what you think about technology.
I think, I guess over time there was a weird sort of, a few years ago, technology companies were perhaps lauded as the gatekeepers of purpose, of new purpose, and were thought of as the organizations that would reinvent the idea of purpose within the corporate framework. It became almost commonplace to hear, we've got a big global problem. What would Silicon Valley do? And that became a falsehood over time, because obviously you've seen situations where Facebook have been, implicated in tampering with intent, voter intent. You've got the idea that, Google, in the work that they're doing with the NHS, has been criticized for, what they're doing with the data through DeepMind and so on. So I think those days are kind of over in terms of what they actually mean, what it means to be an organization that works with technology, but has this idea of purpose at its heart. I think there is the power that these organizations wield has only become apparent to them in recent years, I believe. So they are still getting used to the idea that actually we have a role to play. And I think what perhaps has happened in recent years is that they've relinquished agency to the idea that technology is neutral. Technology doesn't have politics. It doesn't have borders. It doesn't have an ideology. It just is. Except that technology is created within a framework that has societal bias built in. So you have a scenario whereby the programmers who have developed the technology or the business models that drive the technology are obviously driven to extract either the greatest value or developed by the inbuilt biases of the people who developed it. So you can't divorce the two. So I think that perhaps what needs to happen is this idea that we need to step away from this presumption that technology is neutral into a space where, we accept that there are gaps that need to be bridged. We're entering a new phase now where we can't afford a test and learn methodology where getting it wrong could have impacts on either lives or could effectively be something that has irrevocable changes to humanity or anything.
Fascinating.
So I believe that there is a bit of a new dawn, not to sound a bit Obama-like, but a new dawn in the respect that I think people who have humanities at the core of their skill sets will wise up and start to effect change. So people in law, for example, anthropologists, artists, they have a role to play in helping to shape the future that goes beyond people who simply have STEM, STEM subjects at their core. So I believe that there's a lot that we have to play for, and I really believe that technology, and technology companies need to be building this skill set internally.
Yeah, fantastic. So the idea of how you have to interrogate your purpose, you have to understand it, and work out whether your purpose is an end goal in itself. Technology is fantastic. You've built brilliant technology, but what happens with it? The purpose beyond that, your wider impact.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
That's okay. Thank you.
Thank you.